Hi, welcome back to 97.3 FM. This is the final leg of our exhaustive coverage of Ghana's presidential and parliamentary elections, December 2016. It's the 10th day of the month. My name is Bernard Avle, and my team will be. You had some good rest.
I try.
A final.
Nations Development Commission. Now,
in our body politic, and the commission will take a considerable part of the credit. Our security services, thank you, and the proper to ride. I am, however, very grateful for this love and support you have given me, and for standing shoulder to shoulder with me through the years till now. Long may it so continue. Let me pause to remember colleagues who fell in the course of our campaign. Adams Mahama, Otanka Obecha Bilamte, JB Dankwa Edu, Peter Riafe Prepra, Abubakar Sadiq, Pabna Buadu, and others. May their souls continue to rest in perfect peace. In the bosom of the Almighty, until the last day of the resurrection, when we shall all meet again. Amen. Follow affiliation.
Without doubt, one of the most tremendous privileges of my life to serve this great nation as president and to work on behalf of all Ghanaians. I will leave it to history to be the judge of my time and contributions while in that highest office. I leave it to history to be the judge of my time and contributions while in that highest office. To all the people who cheered us on, who gathered at rallies to show their support, and who queued in long lines to vote for me, I know that this is not the outcome that we wanted and we had hoped for. But I say to you that this day should not mark the defeat of your role in this nation's political process. We must do our part to ensure that the progress of all our past governments, from the very first one led by our nation's founder, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, to this most recent one that I have led, continues, because progress does not happen all at once. It takes time and dedication. In the words of Dr. Nkrumah, forward ever, backwards never. At this point, let me commend the Electoral Commission for living up to its constitutional duty in successfully conducting the 2016 elections. My thanks also goes to the media and all stakeholders for their role in these elections. Once again, allow me to offer my sincere congratulations to the President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo. I thank you for your kind attention. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
Dramani Mahama, the President of the Republic, the National Democratic Congress candidate, the process of was the tension and
very much. Hama, how do you feel that issue?
It's for Ghana, not for Walwale or Sirga. This is Sirga. But now it's for Ghana. We can't expect more than what those So what he can do, he will do it. If there's anything to help the community here, he will help. But he's not yet coming out to say, oh, I'm from Walwal or Kirga. This is Kirga. I'll do this, I'll do. No, he's for Ghana. So he'll do what he can for Ghana.
Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia is going to partner Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to form the next government, and of course they would be expected to alleviate the plight of the majority of Guineans by fixing the economy and, as it were, fulfilling the campaign promises they have made. What advice do you have for the next administration as the mother of Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia?
They worried. Thanks, Ghanaians. Walwala, Kirga, where is
Currently, the families of
Parliamentary and the presidential. So Latif, good morning. Welcome to the final leg of our coverage.
From the MPP to secure any seat in those seats. So for them to secure whatever it is that Bawumia did that, but you have to remember that President Mahama went there, and then a week later, right after he had left, the chief of staff also went there. That suggested that whatever Bawumia was doing on the ground may have worked.
Sky, quick one. So you have 6-5 spread. You know all these members of parliament. I know you argue that experience has gone and everything else, but what's your quick thought on Upper West and the spread? 6 NDC, 5 MPP.
Well, it's interesting, as the correspondent there pointed out. There were issues locally that influence what outcome we're seeing now.
Yep.
So that maybe in 2000, the next election, if the NDC resolves them, then perhaps they will be looking at a different result. But what we are seeing now shows that, look, seriously, something went wrong in the Upper West region, and it will be some kind of embarrassment for the likes of the Honorable Alban Bagbin, who is the longest serving member of parliament for that from that constituency, and who is the majority leader in parliament. I mean, President Mahama would have been relying on him ordinarily to deliver the seat or the seats from the Upper West region, but for some reason that has not happened, and it means that there was some failure in that area. And we're seeing 5 new members of parliament for the MPP in that area, and seriously, that presents a big challenge for the balance of power in that part of the country.
Let me come to the Upper East region quickly. We're trying to give you closure, viewers and listeners, on what has been a marathon election culminating in the election of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo of the MPP as the president of Ghana. We have a very different parliament, which is Kai was taking us through the numbers, and he will come back to this. The most lopsided parliament in the Fourth Republic was 1992, when 189 out of 200 were from the NDC. In 1996, the NDC had 133, MPP had 61. This was 2/3 majority. But in 2000, things evened out. MPP had 100, NDC had 92, PNC had 3, CPP had 1. So it was 100 majority, 100 minority, or at least a slight majority if CPP or PNC joined NDC. In 2004, it was 128 MPP. The candidates had increased because of redemarcation. NDC had 94, PNC had 4, CPP had 1. We'll come to 2008 and 2012 shortly, but it appears for the first time in our history in the Fourth Republic, we're going to have a veritable duopoly of only NDC and MPP. What does that mean for our democracy? Before that, let's go to the Upper East region. Frederick Awuni is our regional correspondent. He'll give us a quick summary of the parliamentary situation and a report on how people received yesterday's election outcome. Fred, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
Start with the parliamentary split. There are 15 constituencies in the Upper East region. Who won what?
Okay, so there are 15 constituencies in the Upper East region. NPP has 3 seats, and the rest are for the MDC. Now, in 2012, the NPP had 2 seats, that is the NAPDAM seat and the Parliamentary seat. The PNC had the South seat, and the rest were occupied by the NDC. Now, in this year's election, the NPP has 3 seats. There's the Villa seat, which is, let me start from the Busa South constituency. And so that constituency, Dr. Clement, a part of the NPP, has won that constituency. In 2012, it was a seat for the PNP, but now it's the NDP that holds that seat as we speak. Busa North constituency, the Honorable James Adaza of the NDP has retained that seat. And so in 2012, it was held by the NDP, and the NDP has retained that seat in the Busa North constituency. Now, Bronco Central constituency in 2012 was held by the NDP, the Honorable Mark Owen Boyongo. But the NPP in this year's election has captured or recaptured that seat, and the Honorable Kofi Ada is the Member of Parliament elected for the Bronco Central constituency. The other constituency has been a seat for the NDP since 1996. And in 2016, the Honorable Goodluck Etibo has retained that seat on the ticket of the NDP for the China Ada constituency. The Wanga Central constituency is still held by the NDP. The Honorable Isaac Adongo is a Member of Parliament elect on the ticket of the NDP. Now, the Wanga East constituency was held in 2012 by Dr. Dominic Ayine, and he's retained that seat on the ticket of the NDP. Bongo constituency in 2012 was held by the Honorable Albert Abongo, and that seat has been retained by Edward Power of the NDP. Balancing constituency in 2012 was held by the NDP Honorable Robert National, not until he was elevated into the position of the paramount chief of that traditional area, crossing a by-election, and the NDC recaptured that seat. The Honorable B.G. Baba recaptured that seat, and in this year's election, we still have retained that seat on the ticket of the NDC. That is for the Balancing constituency. Now, the Northern constituency in 2012 was held by the Honorable Boniface Jambil, and that seat has been recaptured by the NDC, and Dr. Matt Nawane has won that seat on the ticket of the NDC. In the Sevilla constituency, the Honorable Lady Avoka has held that seat from 1996, but this time round, the Frank Husseini Adongo of the NPP has recaptured that seat from the Honorable Avoka of the NDC. Now, the Tefani constituency in 2012 was held by the Honorable David Adakulugu of the NDC. But this time round, lawyer Joseph in York Center of the NPP has recaptured that seat for the Tefani constituency on the ticket of the NPP. The Njuri constituency in 2012 was held by Mr. Bemoa of the NDC, and he left the primary to the Deputy Upper East Regional Minister, Robert Baba Kungana Lim. And in this election, Robert Baba Kungana Lim, who is the Upper East Deputy Regional Minister, has retained the seat on the ticket of the NDC for the Binturi constituency. Now, the Boku Central constituency, that constituency was held in 2012 by the Honorable Muhammad Ayariga. Now, in this year's election, there were some difficulties leading to the late declaration of that particular constituency result. The NPP had raised concerns of overvoting and some anomalies with respect to the B sheet. And so yesterday when they announced the result, the NPP couldn't sign their column and stated reasons why they wouldn't sign. However, they gave their name and the reasons for which they wouldn't sign that particular statement of for the Central constituency. And the AP has announced that the Honorable Muhammad Ayariga led with 22,611 votes and is a member of parliament elected. Now, that constituency has a history. No member of parliament has won that seat back to back. What it means is that if you win for the first term, that is the change of member of parliament. It is historic in the history of parliamentary rules in the Central constituency. Let's go to 2012 result was held by Madame Ayamba Tati, and she has retained that seat with 12,800, held by Dominic Azindi, and in the primaries we lost, and so it was fiercely contested between Albert Africa of the NDC and Samari Al-Hassan, one time Upper East Regional Minister under the regime of the Chief Party. And so Albert Africa has won that seat on the ticket of the NDC. And so that's a breakdown of the seat. Has lost their one seat in 2012, and that is the NAPDAM seat. They have increased their seat to 3. The Boku West constituency, the Nabrongo Central constituency, and the for the Parliamentary. Add that the Honorable David Africa lost the seat. Also, the Honorable Mark Owen Moyongo from Nabrongo Central also lost the seat. And these are the big weeks in the upper issues as far as parliamentary is concerned, and these guys have lost their seats.
Awuni, just a final point before you leave us. How did the people of the Upper East region, where you were based, respond or react to yesterday's declaration and MPP victory generally? Were there celebrations or was it a muted reception?
Well, in the Boku Central constituency where I have been for the past 3 days, they were jubilating. And their reason, initially when they declared Muhammad Yariga of masterminding the results in his advantage. And so they were raising concerns. And when the was declared president-elect, the people or the NPP supporters in the Boku Central constituency were jubilating since yesterday in the night at around 8 p.m. So this morning, they are still jubilating. They are jubilating for the fact that the presidential candidate, even though they are concerned with the parliamentary results, the president, an argument is that they will consult their lawyers, and if you have every reason and evidence to prove that the parliamentary results were not won on merit, they will go forward.
Awuni. So let's give you a quick summary of what he said. The 15 seats in the Upper East region have been split in 2 ways: 12 NDC, 3 MPP. The 11 seats in the Upper West region have been split: 6 NDC, 5 MPP. PNC used to have seats in both regions. Now they have no seats in that region. The duopolization of Ghana's politics is complete. It looks like the PNC's power base has been progressively decimated, and there's no space for any of them.
By their own actions and inactions. I mean, far too many people, get to parade themselves as PNC when in fact they are not.
Belong to the other
exactly.
side.
They simply are doing the bidding of other political parties, and yet they find themselves in influential positions within the party. And all of these, I mean, you saw it in 2008, 2012, we saw a similar thing. And they, this election year, we've seen the same thing. And it's not surprising that you would have, what do you call it? One of the Ramadans.
I'm a 2-day-old member of the NPP.
Yeah, I mean, so really, Hassan Ayariga, who was originally with the PNC, left to form his party, declared support for John Dramani Mahama ahead of the election. So really, you shouldn't cry so much for them.
So that's just a quick one on the upper regions. We're coming down south. I'm going to do now Ashanti and Central to give you a sense of where we are. But Nanama will give us quick messages from you, and then I'll bring in Franklin Bedu. This is our wrap-up of the election 2016. We're trying to give you a thorough understanding of the parliamentary landscape. We at CTFM have been focusing a lot on the way parliament works because we think that there must be checks and balances in democracy. And NDC's majority has been decimated in parliament. Don't forget, in 2012 they had 1, 2, 3. Indeed, they do have 1, 2, 3 parliamentarians, and NDC has NDC has 148, MPP has 1, 2, 3. Now it's gone up to 170 for MPP and 102 so far for NDC with 3 to report. Sky, quickly, what was the 2008 situation, just for clarity's sake? Okay. 2008.
In 2008, there were 230, seats in Parliament. The NPP got 107, and then the NDC 116.
Wow, almost 50-50.
Exactly. It was, fairly balanced party.
Well, we need to discuss this later because you and some people seem to think that the parliament should be more balanced so that if the minority is stronger, to make parliament more effective.
Yeah.
But we could argue and say the parliaments that were very evenly matched, the 2000 parliament and the 2008 parliament, how effective were they compared to, say, the 96 parliament or other parliaments? Because there are many people who argue that even though the NPP had a very disadvantaged minority in 96, that was where people like Nana Akufo-Addo, J.H. Mensah, Kwame Adokufo, Kwame Nabatels showed their mettle for Ghanaians to trust them with power in 2000. So that it doesn't have to be a balanced parliament. In fact,
it's a question of balance and quality. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I mean, at that time, the Dankwa Bunzia Domo tradition has been in the wilderness for a long time. But they were able to build formidable individuals in their own right. I mean, in business, in exactly. I mean,
Gladys Asma.
Exactly. These guys were heavyweights in their own right. So when they came together and were able to get seats in parliament, you realize how they put the Rawlings administration on his toes. You understand? And then again, not to, if you like, play down the weight of the people who constituted the majority side in parliament at the time. But you would notice that the NDC put a lot more emphasis on these, grassroots people, so that their weight ordinarily...
They couldn't match.
Exactly.
In fact, that's why if you read Obeda Samuel's book, he thought that they had to refresh the party by bringing the likes of Bagbin into the forefront of the minority leadership, because he realizes that the MPP team was stronger and they had to beef that up. Hold that thought for a minute. Now I'll take us to a few messages. Then we'll cross over by video link to the Bono Ahafo region, one of the swing regions, and discuss that with the central region as well. So when we finish with your messages, we'll go to BA Kojo Ajiman. Franklin Bedu will join us for Central, trying to give you a clearer picture of the parliamentary situation. So Nanama, what are people saying?
So someone tweeting with the handle Razak Abdul says, just woke up to Ghana's version of the Trump presidency. Interesting the type of changes. So we tell Nana we want change and we want it quick. Okay, and somebody says, Kweku Adabo says, Ghanaians have shown maturity and understanding of democracy. Well done to Madame Charlotte Osei. Cherubim Tony says the change of the sitting president should teach all politicians a lesson that Ghanaians can't be taken for granted. Okay, and somebody responding to our interview with Baumia's mother, this is Cloteni, says mothers are always in support of their sons and God bless them for us. Ado Ebenezer, Captain, in fact, you've done a good job for Ghana. This is in reference to President Mahama. Somebody tweeting with a picture of President Mahama says, God bless you at JDM for the bold step you took. Mims Kufuor says, we are happy there's peace still in Ghana.
All right.
And another person wants to ask, who won for Boko? It
was Mahama Yariga.
Yeah, who won for Boko. Yeah. Okay, Stephen Kwesi Asan says the result shows that politicians should not take the electorate for granted. The power of the thumb will show.
All right. Nanama will join me later on when I have Bright Simmons come on the panel as well, where we're looking at the implications of the changes we've seen. This is 97.3 Citi FM. We're discussing the aftermath of the election. My name is Bernard Avle. Richard Sky is our parliamentary correspondent. He's done an excellent job compiling the list, and I think we have the most comprehensive parliamentary list of all, because Richard Sky's analysis shows us that we have 170 seats for the New Patriotic Party, a jump from 123, and 102 for NDC, a reduction from 148. So NDC has lost 46. MPP has gained probably more. PNC Independent also lost. Let's know your thoughts. 054-998-6996. Nana Boachiri will also read some messages for us soon. But let me bring in Kojo Ajiman by video link. Bono Ahafo region was the swing region that gave NDC its slimmest margin. Because in 2012, the Greater Accra gave NDC 115,000. Western region gave NDC 113,000. Central gave NDC 66,000 more. All these are more than MPP or a net. But the net for BA was 40,000, very close. How close was the 2016 aftermath? Kojo Ajiman, take it up from Bono Ahafo region. So Kojo is on, but he's having challenges with sound, so we'll put him up very soon. He is giving us a full report. He's based in the studios of Greener FM, and credit to him, apart from Sunyai, he actually went to German North to check out that election as well. Yeah. So B always gives us 2 elections in one. In 2008 we had Tyne, and in 2012, 2016 we have German North. So that's the character of the region. Bono Ahafo region, some people predicted was going to fall. President Kufuor was quite prophetic in his final rally speech, where he said they were going to take at least 5 regions, and he was emphatic that BA had fallen already to MPP. Yeah. We don't know how he knew, but hey, he was president for 8 years. You can't argue with that.
Something.
He also said Central was falling and Western was falling, and even said Greater Accra they would take. Nobody believed that. I certainly didn't think it would be that massive. Kojo Ajiman, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Bernard.
Brilliant. Take us through what happened in the Bono Ahafo region.
Well, let me start with the presidential. When you take the presidential, the NPP was able to win in 20 of the constituencies here out of the 29. Then the NDC also won the 9 seats out of the 29. In terms of numbers, Nana Akufo-Addo had 510,371 votes. That is, in terms of percentage, 54.07. Then the NDC's John Dramani Mahama had 421,336 votes, representing 44.64%. In terms of the difference, let me work the difference out.
What was the Nana percentage again for the region?
Okay, Nanado's percentage for the region was 54.0%.
54%.
54.07%.
Okay, and John was 44.6.
64.
So it looks like your percentage spread for BA is very similar to the Ghana percentage, because the national percentage was 53.8 and 44. So it looks like BA was a direct reflection of the national picture.
Direct reflection of the national picture.
Good. Give us
give
us the parliamentary spread now. Don't worry about the nitty gritty. We are not statistical junkies. Just give us the parliamentary.
The difference. Okay. Now let me move on to the parliamentary. The NDC is having only 8 seats, and interestingly, the NPP was able to gain 2 seats of the NDC strongholds. That is, when you go to the eastern side of the Bono Ahafo region, we know that the eastern side of the Bono Ahafo region is always strong in terms of, or they always go for the NDC. But then this time, the NPP was able to capture their Tebu-Buamantin seat and the Tyne seat. That's the 2008 decider constituency. Now,
hold on. How many seats? What was the spread in parliamentary seats in 2012 for BA?
Okay, in 2012, the NPP had 13, NDC had 16.
Wow. So NDC had a slight majority in 2012. And in 2016, the spread is what?
3%.
Yeah.
In 2016, the spread is, NPP is 21 now. It means that they added 8 more seats.
Wow. They added 8 more. Do you know which seats these seats are, which new seats? So
you go to places like, let me quickly scroll. I have the data.
You mentioned 2 already. You mentioned Atebubu, and then you mentioned Tyne.
Okay, now Doma West. Where we have Honorable Vincent Oponye-Boa, who is the Deputy Minister for Youth and Sport.
Okay.
He lost to Ali Maiga Halidu. Now, this name is very popular in Doma because, Doma is noted for its poultry business. This Ali is the youngest of the 3 Ali brothers. He owns a lot of poultry farms in the area. So he was able to win the seat from Honorable Vincent Opon. But then, Bernard, something remarkable here is that they voted for President John Dramani Mahama. But then, parliamentary, they voted for the NPP's Ali Maiga Halidu. Now let me come.
Hey, go ahead. Tell us.
Hannah Louis West and
a first timer. So 2 Kotifis and the south. And by
we had Cashew, and the southern was unpredictable. They've been swinging.
But the NDC still maintain their seat in those two places.
Well, let me put it on record that information I gathered from these areas is that most of the times the violence issues are overblown.
Okay.
So it does not really translate into vote. And the people there resonate very well with Honorable Collins Dauda, who, when you go to the drivers, he has a loan scheme. They apply for these schemes, they get cars, the Okada drivers and cocoa farmers there. So the national issues trickling down into the constituency didn't really affect the vote of the NDC there. But then let me put it on record that the MPP was also able to close the gap there.
A clear analysis of the Bono Ahafo region. I will wrap that up quickly with Sky to give us a quick sense of the picture. So 2 deputy ministers of Ghana have lost their seats. The deputy minister for... Yes,
3. Yeah, 3.
Oh, who is the 3rd minister to have lost in BA?
Vincent Opon Asamoah. He's the deputy minister for youth and...
Okay, for which constituency?
Brekum West.
Okay, so 3 deputy ministers have lost. Opon Asamoah, Hannah Bisiu, and then Alex Treme. Thank you, Kojo, for that fascinating report. Bono Ahafo region has changed. Quick summary. In 2012, MPP had 13 seats, NDC had 16. That was almost evenly split. Yeah. Now you have an overwhelming shift. NDC 8, so they've dropped by 5. Yep. MPP 21. No, NDC 8, they've dropped by 8. MPP 21, they've increased by 9. 8, yes. Yeah, 8. So they just took the 8 from NDC.
So the net gain for the MPP is 8. The net loss NDC is 8. So 8.
And then you have 3 deputy ministers losing.
Yeah.
Deputy minister for sports, deputy minister for education, deputy minister for agric. Yeah. He gives the reasons. He says there's the cashew issue, which wasn't handled well. There's a DKM issue. But the presidential moved along because you also had from minus 40,000 for Nanado to plus 90,000. So that's 130,000 shift.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, people blame, although the president, has tried to insist that these are my in-laws, blah, blah, blah. These 2 issues that you just spoke about, the cashew matter and also the DKM matter, to a certain extent, justifiably or unjustifiably, people blame the government. Do you understand? And to that extent, many of the MPs from the area will tell you that these 2 issues were affecting them. And I said, days earlier, that on the floor of Parliament, when it came to the heat, and when they felt that the minority side was seeking to read a statement on the floor of the House on the matter, the majority side quickly put together a statement, and those statements were read.
So which were also criticizing the minister's handling.
Exactly.
So both minority and minority MPs realized the political consequence of cashew.
Yes.
And they wanted to cash in.
Exactly. So you had the MP for the Banda constituency, the Honorable Ibrahim Ahmed, a deputy chief whip, taking on the system. And, it was so unprecedented to a certain extent that a minister takes a decision and he comes under fire from his own colleagues on the floor of Parliament. I mean, really it was.
So, thank you, Sky, for now. We'll come back to the analysis of parliamentary politics. This is Citi FM's wrap of the 2016 election. My name is Bernard Avle. We're taking you through the country. We started with Karim Natogma, who was in the hometown of Dr. Mahmoud Baumia in the Mamprisi West District, spoke to Mahmoud's mother and sisters and cousins. And then we went to the Upper West region. NDC has lost some key seats there. From a majority of 9-2, they now have 6-5 parliamentary seats. Upper East region from 15-1 is now, from 14-1 for NDC is now 12-3. MPP gaining 2 more. Then we have the Bono Ahafo region with the most seismic shift of all. Bono Ahafo region was kind to NDC in 2012. They've rejected the NDC massively. We're going to go into the Central region shortly with Franklin Bedu. But let me introduce my next guest as well, who is joining us, who has an interesting background because he has two sides to him. He is an entrepreneur who does his own business across the world with various countries, benefiting from his entrepreneurial drive in the area of quality control systems, particularly in the health sector. But that's not all he does. He also is a social activist, and we will talk to him about what he's seen so far. He predicted very many things in our world. The Trump victory as well to some friends. His Facebook page is very, very active. And he also correctly predicted the MPP victory. But I just want to quickly take his thoughts on the BA, because I know you used to live in Bono Ahafo region. Bright Simmons is in the studio. Bright, thanks for joining us. Our reporter just told us that there's been a sweep, both presidential and parliamentary, from minus 40,000 for Nanado in 2012. He now has plus 90,000. And then parliamentary-wise, from 13 seats, as against NDC's 16, MPP now has 21, and NDC has only 8. You know the BA. What do you make of this shift in BA?
So I don't know the BA as well as I used to, but generally you have two sections of that particular region that are of interest, the Ahafo section and then the original Bono section. And traditionally, if you remember the history of the BA, Osajifon Kwame Nkrumah very cleverly managed to split the region to two to weaken the power of the Asante nationalists. And so there's been a traditional tendency of the Ahafo side to vote for MPP and the Bono side to vote for the NDC. But these things are changing. There's a lot of intermarriages, etc. So it often is about what people self-identify as. And I think there's a new emerging phenomenon where people identify as Akan, increasingly more than Bono in large parts of the Bono Ahafo region. And these are having effect because of urbanization and other factors. So I think what happens is that Bono Ahafo region, like you rightly pointed out, being a swing region, belongs to that part of the country that more or less determines the winner by diverging between the two parties at critical moments.
Okay, so Bono tends to be NDC, Ahafo tends to be MPP. Yeah, I see. He broke down the region into three. He said the western side, and then he had the northern side, and then the southern side. He said the northern side was more likely to be NDC because there were Gruma and Grushi, northern Bole people coming down. The southern side, which is the Ahafo side, is MPP, and then he said that the western side was unpredictable. And I think that's roughly your analysis. But there was also something that said DKM and cashew. Yeah. It appears people's economic well-being is quite key. Do you think the urbanization of BA, not so much like Accra, had an effect? Because when we did our own campaign trail event there, people were very concerned about the effect of the cashew policies of this government on their livelihoods and also on the DKM matter. So it seems as if there were also economic issues there, not just historical issues.
So 30 years ago, most Ghanaians were farmers. People forget that. Today, the majority of Ghanaians are not farmers. And small businesses, entrepreneurship, a greater tendency, even when you are in farming, to be in commercial farming as opposed to subsistence farming. All of these changes the way in which people are impacted by decisions that in the past were considered fairly esoteric. So if you think of it, Bank of Ghana regulatory policy, can you imagine that have an impact? It's the most stupid thing, which was actually create a run on these institutions by publicly closing them down without having put into place any transition mechanisms to take over the banks quietly and professionally. They just simply announced that they've frozen their accounts. That's stupid, completely stupid. Now people may not get the full detail that you don't do this as a regulator. If the last thing you want to do is create a run on the bank, because the bank has assets that should not be impaired. Now these are microfinance institutions; they are not that different from banks.
Okay.
Particularly when there are people's livelihoods with them through investment. So even though the ordinary person in Bono Ahafo may not understand that it was a massive failure of the Bank of Ghana's regulatory procedures, and that the government, because of its failure to create a proper directive for how regulation in this part of the banking sector, which is regarded as non-traditional banking, but it's actually banking when you think of it, its failure to create that direction. The people may not understand that detail, but they see the impact.
Okay.
And somehow they have to blame somebody.
And they definitely blame the government.
Which is
very interesting. Now let's take two other swing regions. I have Ebenezer Afenyi-Dazi joining us from the western region, and then Franklin Bedu covered the central region. Franklin, since you're here, let's defer to Eben on the line first. So Ebenezer Afenyi-Dazi and Obrempoya Ampofo covered the western region. again, they broke down the region into 3 parts. So, Eben, I'm going to start by asking you to give us again how you redemarcated the region based on electoral possibilities, and then give us the presidential and parliamentary split for the Western region. So, Eben, if you're there, take it up.
Hello, Bernard. Good morning. Yeah, exactly as you said. In the Western region, we segmented the region into 3 blocks, i.e. the Southern Belt, the Northern Belt, and the Middle Belt. Now, the Southern Belt starts from the Sekani Takoradi metropolis, which is the capital of the Western region. Within Sekani Takoradi alone, we have 5 constituencies. And then when you add the other constituencies that make up the Southern Belt, you have Ahanta West, you have Impoho, you have Wasa East, and then you have Shama. So in the Southern Belt, you have about 13 constituencies. Then in the Middle Belt, you have Amenfi Central, Amenfi West, Amenfi East, and then Pristia Valley, which are 4 constituencies. In the Northern Belt, you have 9 constituencies. Bibiani and Hansobekwai. You have Bodi, you have Joaboso, you have Bia East, Bia West, you have Seshia Contombra, you have Seshia also. And this is the makeup of the Northern Belt. Now, let's take note that at the end of, before we went into this election, out of the 26 seats in the Western region, the NDC was occupying 18 of them, whereas the MPP had 8. And this was the highest gap ever between the NDC and the MPP in terms of parliamentary after the 2012 election. But after 2016, the MPP has increased its seats to 18. I beg your pardon, 16, which means that they have added 8 new seats to their 8. And then they have left the NDC with only 10 seats. Now, the MPP's seats that they were occupying, the 8 seats they were occupying before this election, none of them was lost. This is Takrady, Sekendi, Esikado Ketan, Efian, Kwesimentim, Impoho, Takwan Suayeb, and Bibiani Anyaso. They have retained all these seats with actually better margins, both in presidential and parliamentary. Now, the NDC's 18 seats, which is Wasa East, and which were Wasa East, Ahanta West, Shama, Pristia Valley, Valejora, Amenfi East, Amenfi West, Amenfi Central, Bia East, Bia West, Joaboso, Bodi, Aowen, Swaman, Akontombra, Seshivioso, Jomoro, and the Lembele. Now, these are the new seats the MPP took. They took Shama, which is a shrink area. They took it both presidential, parliamentary. They took Ahanta West. Ahanta West is originally an MPP seat, but they lost it in 2012 to the GIPC's former GIPC boss, John Yambwaji. They have taken back that seat with very wide margins. Pristia Valley is a swing seat. The MPP has taken back that seat with a Barbara Jesse, who is the wife of former AGI President Tony Otinjesi. The NDC, the MPP has also taken Evaluate Ajomorojora, which is also a swing seat. They have taken that seat with Catherine Afeku, who won in 2008, but she lost in 2012. She has come back to take that seat. The NDC, the MPP has also taken Amenfi East. Amenfi East is also a swing seat, although it is in the Middle Belt, but it's a swing seat. The MPP has taken back this seat. They have taken back Seshi Akontombra. And this one is not their seat. In fact, this is one of the stronghold seats for the NDC in the northern region. In the northern part of the region, they have taken this seat. They are postal constituency. And it must be put on record that this is one of the shocker that the MPP pulled, because this seat has never been won by the MPP in terms of parliamentary. Although in presidential, they've won twice with candidate Kufuor in 2000 and 2004. Now, another shocker is Seshirioso. The MPP has never won this seat, presidential and parliamentary, and they have taken this seat. So within the northern part, they have taken 2 significant seats, which is the 2 Seshi seats, Seshi Akontombra and Seshirioso. And that is actually very critical. And let's also note that out of the 8 seats the MPP took, they didn't win 2 in terms of presidential, which means that there were 2 constituencies that voted skirt and blouse in the Western region in this election, and that is Pristia Valley and Evaluate Ajomorojora. They both voted for President Mahama, and they chose MPP parliamentary candidates, although the margins even for the presidential were quite close, which means MPP improved their margins. But that is not surprising because, like I said, these 2 constituencies are shrink, and this is not the first time they are voting skirt and blouse. In fact, in Pristia, in Evaluation, we know at times when the CPP won the seat in terms of parliamentary, and they chose NDC candidates. So it tells you that that place has been swinged. Pristia Hunibali has been the same. So it's not surprising these two constituencies voted skirt and blouse again. Now, let's also take note that to contest that result one and their background, just very briefly, then I'll give you the figures for presidential from the Western region. Obepo, thank you for joining me. So tell us, Shama, who is the person that won it?
Yeah, we are now looking at Atto Pamford. Atto Pamford won the seat for the NPP. And currently, if you ask who is Atto Pamford he holds an MBA in marketing. Currently, he holds an MBA in marketing from the University of Southampton. And as we speak, he is an industrialist. And he is coming from Napa.
Is a non-industrialist, a former vice president of the Association of Ghana Industries. That must also be on record. Now, let's also look at Ahanta West.
Well, Ahanta West, we are lawyer Ebenezer Kujoku is the person that we are looking at here. And he has, as we speak, he's a barrister at law. That is his degree. He's a lawyer. Again, he went to the Ghana School of Law, and he's coming from this school in the Ahanta West constituency. His age, if you ask me, he is 49 years. 49 years.
Let's also look at Pristia Hunibali. We know Barbara, who is the wife of the former AGI president, Tony Otinjesi, is the winner. Tell us who Barbara is.
Yeah, Barbara is also 51 years. She's also a lawyer. Let's put that on record. She's also a lawyer from the University of Ghana, and she is coming from the Pristia Hunibali constituency.
Let's also go to Avelo Ajomorojora. The person there is not a new entrant, but this is Katrina Fekubi. We know that she won that seat in 2008, and she has come back to reclaim it. So she is not a new entrant. Now let's go to Amenfi East. We have a new entrant for the MPP in Amenfi East. Tell us who he is.
Amenfi East, he is Patrick B. He is in the person of Alex Tete. He is also 44 years. And 44, he holds an advanced certificate in accounting from the Takrady Polytechnic, then now Takrady Technical University. He is a businessman, and he's coming from Somenya.
Let's also look at Jomoro. We have a man by name Paulesian. Tell us how he was able to pull this surprise and who he is.
Well, there were a lot of, in the Jomoro constituency, there were a lot of issues that came to play in this particular year's election, and history did not matter in the first place. And when you look at it, there were a lot of issues at the NDC front, and the Samia influence had also dwindled. But he came out when the two of these two persons who had already taken the seat before had issues, and so he was able to come out successfully. Paul Essien is 41 years old. He holds a degree from the University of Cape Coast. He is a teacher, and he's coming from Tikobo number 1. He won massively in the Tikobo number 1 township or the entire area.
And let's look at Sefiri also. The person, he's a new entrant, just that he has been consistent because he has contested this seat about 2 terms, on two occasions, and this was his 3rd attempt, and he was able to win. Who is he, and tell us a bit of his man?
Yeah, the man behind the NHIS, if you recall, he is Dr. Kuku Efriye. He is currently the eldest among all the new persons who came onto the scene this time around. He is 62 years old. He is a fellow from the Ghana College of Physicians and Surgeons, and so currently he is a physician consultant, and he is also coming from Sefiri also.
So Bernard, that's the background of the persons that were able to win this seat for the NPP, and they are the persons on the ticket of the party.
Eben, if you can hear me. Eben, can you hear me?
Exactly, I can hear you, Bernard.
Give us now finally the presidential spread, because I know that Western gave NDC a net of 113,000 in 2012. How did the presidential voting pattern change this year?
But there's a bit of a challenge with the final figures, especially from the EC's perspective here. But at least what we know for now is that in terms of percentages, the MPP's Nana Akufo-Addo polled 52.78%. The
2016, MPP won majority of seats along the coast. NDC won only 2. That is KEA and Cape Coast South. So Cape Coast South, Kwekore Ketegan was able to retain his seat, but we lost the presidential to President-elect Nana Akufo-Addo.
So you are saying that
carefully, he makes the argument that
in a lot of ways, the NDC acts in a manner that benefits the middle class to the high library, and then immediately feel incentivized to vote you.
So there's a unique
people to go and vote. Now the turnout in Ashanti turn as hard, and the DKM was
amazing as well. See massive when he said it has effect on northern votes, because H.W. writes an article which is quite thought-provoking about the Bawumia effect in this election and why it will change the character of our politics forever. When we come back, we'll also look at what about our politics will never be the same. Is it the fact that social media has changed elections? Is it the fact that urbanization in its nuanced form is changing things? Or even the demographic dividend from youth? But let's turn to your messages. Nana Boakye Adam has been combing through your comments and is sending us quickly now through some of your messages. So Nana Boakye, take it up. What are the viewers and the listeners saying so far in our stream?
Sami Battles has a rather long one. He says, big trees will always fall in an election. Young techs will always emerge. The issue of a vacuum being created because of a lack of quality is overstated. True, there are stalwarts who add deaths to Parliament, and the loss of them is sad. However, over the years, parliamentary debates and decision-making have become partisan, and there are few neutrals when decisions have been taken. Reference the hastily endorsed agreements and bills. Now, quality debates and institutional knowledge have become submerged or subsumed under the influence of the whip. What we should rather hope for is our future parliament become more thorough and nationalist than partisan, and certainly not a rubber stamp of the ruling government. He goes on to speak about the Central Region. He says the Ghana Living Standard Survey puts Central Region as 4th poorest region. A stadium, market and an urban center, and the Commander Factory not
who are supposed to benefit from. That is Pasi, Petendisa, Kwadi, Tamale. And today seems to be doing well. Some even had their buildings or their structures complete. But as we speak, work is still ongoing on those areas, talking about the home market, the abattoir, the engineering landfill site, and all that. Now, when you look at the airport or the aerodrome,
Hello, Norbert.
Hello.
Yeah, just a quick point. I noticed from the trend that NPP has been consistently increasing its votes in the voter region. So in 96 they had 4.7%, 2000 7.9%. In 2004, 13.7%, 2008, 15.4%, came down to 12.9%. They've gone back up to almost 60%.
I think what is happening, the youth are just simply engaged, but they are not being sufficiently politically educated. There's very little ideological mobilization. The youth movement has collapsed. Student politics is useless. Nobody.
But when you add that to the way our economy functions and the fact that the economy grows, but there's no real jobs available, could there be some sort of youth revolt against establishment, or because of the poor education? I mean, look at Bernie Sanders. He had a lot of his youth following him because his policies agreed to the economic reality.
That's in countries where you have sufficient political education, so people can actually see the link between, for instance, minimum wage and my own well-being, because they know that minimum wage lifts all wages eventually. In that part of the world, what I think is happening, the lead on the finding some,
yes,
but they're going to disengage from politics in a mobilizational way, meaning that they will vote with the general class. More associated with corruption-related incidents than the NPP. It's hard to say, but you can take very empirical data like the Auditor General reports and look at how much money. He's certainly data shows that they are losing civil services. On the other hand, small businesses, etc., from engaging in procurement. But then maybe 80%. All procurement is competitive.
Full stop.
Period.
We'll leave it here, and I want to quickly end by bringing one by one the crew that and then he has Philip Ashon.